What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. So we're doing another beginner series on Oxiracetam. Very impressive compound with many mechanisms of action that can be helpful in a variety of situations. I'm going to explain that for you. We'll break down the dose range, mechanism of action, what to stack it with, what the effects are, and really what its place is in a regimen over the course of a 7-day period. In the meantime, what supports this broadcast is a couple nootropic products. Number one, our most powerful product, the Cortex Stack. Look, powerful pre-made stack, focus, motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency in a pill. 2 capsules and you are in. Probably the best option for Cortex is to do auto ship. Having an epic nootropic stack shipped to your doorstep every month for cheaper than the original price is a good way to go about having it. You just always have to kind of keep Cortex around. It stacks with so many other things out there, and by itself, it is a rockin' nootropic stack. Do auto ship at livecortex.com. I promise you, you will be happy that you did. For those of you that this video is relevant to, meaning people that are new to nootropics, I created a course for you. It is called Nootropics Ground Zero, and it covers everything that you need to know if you're new to nootropics. Even if you're a year in and still confused, because people can be, Ground Zero clears it up. If you're in a couple years but you need to ascend higher to around the 6-year mark, and look, you make a lot of distinctions of that mark, you get better results. Get the Nootropics Masterclass. In fact, if you're new, get Nootropics Ground Zero and Nootropics Masterclass if you really want to optimize your usage of nootropics. Guys, I got to raise test, upgraded Viking testosterone program. Men that have to lose weight, shred. A highly effective but very simple but extremely effective weight loss program for men. Last couple things. If you're in need of one-on-one help with me, biohacking help, what we predominantly do is establish a bunch of nootropic chemicals, a bunch of nootropic stacks, some research chemicals, some supplements to optimize the hell out of your brain performance throughout the day, mostly fostering productivity, your hormonal profiles, many of them, as well as your general baseline energy. If you want a complete upgrade to your energy and brain performance, work with me for 3.5 months or 6 months. If you have PSSD, go for either PSSD full on 6 to 9 months plus working with me to resolve your condition, or PSSD basic, which gets you on some regimens, gets me helping you dialing them in, and gives you instructions to move forward thereafter. Okay. So the dose range on Oxiracetam, let's just talk about where it originated. So like a lot of the racetams, they were being studied for anti-Alzheimer's properties, right? You know, we had identified that aside from beta amyloid plaques, and really what they tend to encompass is cholinergic neurons and cholinergic pathways. That whole system goes awry in dementia and Alzheimer's. So, you know, scientists studied a bunch of different chemicals with the suffix racetam. One of them is oxiracetam for this particular condition. And look, cholinergics and cholinesterase inhibitors are effective to extents with people that have Alzheimer's, but it's my belief that it's not the entire picture. But this is where racetams originated from, where they were first used. The mechanism of action, dose range. Let's talk about dose range. The dose range on oxiracetam is 50 to 1,500 milligrams. I know that's a wide dose range, but look, again, there are some people that's choline functioning is just so optimal as it is. It's usually very outgoing people, very productive people that seem to think a lot and work a lot. Their brains already fire pretty well on the cholinergic vicinity, in the cholinergic area. So they just don't require higher doses of it. I literally do know people that can take 50 milligrams oxiracetam, get a great boost upon their already great baseline and function awesomely. But I also know people that have to stack multiple racetams together with oxiracetam at a gram or 1,500 to get the desired result. There are plenty of people for whom that's the case, and usually those people have cholinergic deficits. And frankly, over the years, I found that that's either as a result of recreational drugs or it's as a result of pharmaceutical drugs that mess with acetylcholine signaling. These people need higher doses of oxiracetam. Mechanism of action. This is where it separates itself from, like some of the other racetams we've discussed so far, like pramiracetam. It's actually completely different. Whereas pramiracetam is working on the choline transporter to take choline and shuttle it into acetylcholine synthesis. So it's not really borrowing acetylcholine from anywhere. It's just making you synthesize it faster and better, which is good. That's kind of ideal, then the system works the way that it's supposed to. Oxiracetam is forcing hippocampal acetylcholine release from a releasable pool. Okay, so you've got releasable pools and neurotransmitters. All oxiracetam is doing on the choline side is instructing the hippocampus to from that releasable pool, the reservoir of acetylcholine, release more in that area. And then that's a memory-centric region of the brain. So you get working memory, focus, verbal fluency just by taking oxiracetam. The other interesting thing about it, though, is that like aniracetam, it's also working on one of the glutamate subtype receptors called the AMPA receptors. Okay, those are glutamate receptors and cation channels that are integral to plasticity and synaptic transmission at postsynaptic receptor sites and postsynaptic membranes, effectively. Ultimately, what you're fostering is plasticity and LTP when you're working on the AMPA receptor. What oxiracetam does is it modulates the AMPA receptor to be more receptive of the glutamate signal in a positive way. So positive modulation means it modifies it to be more receptive to the transmitter at the time, but in a way which does not downregulate it, which makes oxiracetam and aniracetam, which does the same thing, extremely, extremely interesting and impressively useful chemicals. Stacks well with choline. Okay, so let's just jump on choline for a second. This idea of choline sources with racetams, right, that I'm sure you've heard, this is where this was born. It was born out of the necessity to replete the releasable pool, because you can induce a mild temporary deficiency in acetylcholine, the releasable pool, via fostering it to release, in these cases, in the hippocampus and like other regions of the brain that racetams might force the release of. That's where choline sources come in. Now, not everybody needs them when they take racetams. Not everybody needs to take a choline source, because they eat eggs, they eat beef. Their brain naturally makes a good bit of it. I mean, people make more than others. Something in their diet that they're doing is supplying them enough choline so where they don't really, they either take low doses of choline sources with racetams or they don't need any at all. You'll know if you're one of those people that you really don't need a whole lot of choline when taking choline with racetams makes you lethargic, because then you end up with too much choline in the synaptic space, and the result of that is tiredness and lethargy. Stacks well with choline, obviously. Alcar, DMAE, centrophenoxine, Nupept, PRL853, dynamine, theobromine, these are the stimulant side, teacrine, alpha-lipoic acid, actually stacks really well with alpha-lipoic acid, vinpocetine, modafinil, hydrafinil, adrafinil, ethylmodafinil, all the modafinil analogs, most other racetams, and it also stacks incredibly well with picamilin. The reason it does that is because oxiracetam is a cyclic GABA derivative. It's actually made out of the GABA chemical, which I find really interesting. So stacking them two together with people that are overly run by anxiety tends to help them to keep a chill brain. And then you've got acetylcholine optimization on top of that, so they end up in a really good place. Like, I've actually worked with people both for free because they were my friends or my relatives or something, and then people on a consulting basis where the anxiety issue was either primary or secondary but still potent issue, and oxiracetam was a huge help with picamilin. So that's what it stacks well with. Effects by itself, you're looking at focus, working memory, verbal fluency, and general brain processing. That's oxiracetam by itself or with a little bit of choline. Paired, though, like this is how I typically use oxiracetam with other stimulant or energy compounds, you get the effect of the stimulant and energy compounds. So let's call it modafinil. So you get mental endurance, dopamine hit and rush and motivation to do things. Like, you just don't want to sit still as far as work goes. You have the energy to do things. But modafinil and some of these energy chemicals like teacrine are not going to optimize your memory and necessarily your focus and possibly your verbal fluency, but not a whole lot. When you bring oxiracetam into using one of those other chemicals, modafinil, teacrine, you add this other element of functionality with mental endurance and energy. And so that's ultimately, look, that's my favorite way to use it. There's many ways to use oxiracetam, but that's one of my favorites, okay? So to recap, dose range, 50 to 1500 milligrams. Mechanism of action, hippocampal acetylcholine release. That is going to optimize focus, working memory, verbal fluency. You may or may not need a choline source with it. You're going to have to test. The best way to test is to start very low on a choline source, see how you tolerate it. Move the choline source up until you reach lethargy, until there's some sort of negative side effect and you actually don't get working memory. Maybe you have a memory deficit, because that can happen in some cases when there's too much choline floating around, and ultimately you don't feel like yourself. You feel a little tired. Then you've got to take the choline down. Like I've been saying this for years, a lot of people respond to extremely lower doses of acetylcholine or of choline precursors when they're taking racetams. In fact, a disproportionate amount of people do. There are people on the other side, of course, but a disproportionate amount of people respond to lower doses. It's also working on AMPA receptors, basically positive modulation of the AMPA receptor, which leads to synaptic plasticity, neurotransmission, postsynaptic receptor binding, and ultimately LTP, which is incredible for working memory in general, memory formation. Stacks well with choline, Alcar, DMAE, centrophenoxine, Noopept, PRL853, dynamine, theobromine, teacrine, ALA, vinpocetine, all the affinils, most of the racetams, and interestingly, because of its work on GABA, picamilin. Effects used by itself, focus, working memory, verbal fluency, probably best stacked with energy or endurance nootropic chemicals to get you both elements of it, sort of the best of both worlds, like a full-on functional brain where you've got endurance, you've got energy, and then you're bringing in focus, working memory, verbal fluency with the Oxiracetam, okay? So that has been another Nootropics beginner series on Oxiracetam. Very impressive chemical. Its place in a weekly regimen, probably 2 to 3 times max. Like you can take an Oxiracetam modafinil stack on Monday. You should probably wait a couple days thereafter, like maybe Wednesday, Thursday, take an Oxiracetam, teacrine, dynamine, caffeine, theanine stack like on that day. And then perhaps again, maybe on a Sunday, if you're one of those hard charging people that work 7 days a week, you can take Oxiracetam with, you know, any other chemical. You can go back to sort of a similar stack to the first stack, or you can stack it with any of the chemicals that we talked about, like Noopept, PRL, dynamine, even maybe even picamilin to sort of chill yourself out. But ultimately, probably no more than 3 times a week in a weekly regimen, and even that's sort of pushing it for me. My regimens switch, but typically I'll use Oxiracetam like twice in a 7-day period, and usually I'm not taking nootropics for the whole 7 days. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been useful. Those that this is particularly relevant to, meaning new people, you have to start with Nootropics Ground Zero. It is a video course that I created for people that are new to nootropics so that you don't have to waste 3 years of research and experimentation of disparate information out there on the web, and one person says this and the other person says this. I'm in this game about 14 years. I know so much about it. I work with live people, including executives from big companies and big banks. And I will show you how to not waste time and get good results with Nootropics Ground Zero. You want to send to the masterclass, get the masterclass. Cortex stack, listen, auto ship. I'm telling you guys, it is so much smarter and so much better. One of our highest selling products is getting Cortex shipped to your doorstep. Think about that. Epic Nootropic stack shipped to you monthly. And you don't even have to do anything. And it's cheaper. And it's an awesome stack at autoship at livecortex.com. The rest of our stuff, find at livecortex.com. I need to tell you guys that I've got, I think I only have 1 3.5 month left. So if there are people that are looking to work with me on a one-on-one biohacking basis, you got to get on that ASAP. Or that slot is going to be filled. Now those slots open up because people are completed, but I don't have a completion until probably another 1.5 months or so. So get on that livecortex.com. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Talk to you next time.